everybody. Welcome to another exciting edition of Living at Your Highest Quality of Life from the doctors that inspire wellness. We put a little music in this time to brighten it up a little.
I'm Jessica Hutchins.
So welcome. We're excited to have you here. I want to remind you that we'll be back live again next week. So please send us topic ideas so that we make sure that we're fulfilling your needs and we keep this moving for you, the patient, so that you're living at a higher quality of life. So today we wanted to talk about the importance of detoxification. And I know that sometimes these topics can be a little bit on the repetitive side, but one of the things that I learned is that it takes a human being 7 times to hear something before they actually implement change. So that's why it's really important that we keep going over these topics over and over and over again, because we so desperately want our patients at the community, Ohio, the United States, everybody, to feel like they're at their best self. It really does impact society in a much more positive way when we're all healthy and achieving a higher quality of life. So we will be going over our main focuses or foci. I don't know what the word is. Anyway, repeatedly. So inflammation, deficiencies, detox. Also want to remind you that we do have an offer as far as our infrared sauna is concerned during the month of September, and are planning on continuing that even into October. So for first-time sauna users at Inspire Wellness, we are offering this at a discount, and we have packages of 10 or 20 steeply discounted, because we want people using the sauna to help them really and truly feel so much better than they are feeling right now. So again, getting you to a much higher quality of life. So let's talk about detoxification.
Okay. So first of all, with the sauna, now that the weather is cooling off a little bit, that's going to hopefully make the heat a little more tolerable. But it's only, you only have to go in it for about half an hour. And it really is one of the few things that helps detoxify no matter what the toxins are. And again, we're bombarded with so many toxins on a daily basis that it's just really nice. And I think everybody should have one from their home. But until that can happen, practically speaking, come on in and try ours out. Even if it is to see if you want to buy one at home, it's good to try one out first. So come on in and sweat a little. And I mean, I haven't had anybody yet say they didn't feel great when they got out of it, for sure. So about detoxification. So you might think of it as, related to heroin use or something like that. And it's something only for a few minority folks to really worry about, but it's absolutely not. It's something we have to take into account every single day, healthy or not healthy. If we're healthy, then we need to stay healthy by detoxifying every day. But it's one of the 3 major pillars of health, foundations of health, along with the inflammation and, getting proper nutrition. So some of the ways you might feel if you're not detoxifying well, I mean, it could be literally any chronic disease at all. But specifically, fatigue is probably the number one thing that we see when you have a huge toxic overload in your body. So there's fatigue, brain fog. I mean, how common is brain fog that you see, right? Even aches and pains, joint pain, belly pain, the inability to recover from exercise well, waking up with really puffy eyes, or when you take your socks off, after a long day, there are big sock indentation marks. So a lot of extra swelling or edema can be a sign of toxicity. But again, fatigue and just not feeling great, feeling like crap, and anxiety as well.
Mood disorders.
Anxiety is a huge a symptom of toxin overload, for sure. Toxins like heavy metals, pesticides that we'll talk about in a minute. So again, this really is, even if you don't realize it relates to a specific chronic disease, it's so important in every single symptom you have. And I'm sure you've all heard our bucket analogy, where everybody has a bucket where you can put all the toxins in. Once that bucket starts overflowing, then you feel symptoms. And if you don't do something about it then it develops in a chronic disease. So anything you can do to either increase the size of your bucket, increase the drain in the bottom of the bucket, or decrease the amount of other crap that goes in your bucket, your body will be able to run smoothly.
Well, the analogy that I use with the bucket is that from an evolutionary standpoint, we were born with what would be the equivalent of a 5-gallon rain bucket, let's say. But as we have evolved, and especially since the Industrial Revolution, and our food has changed so dramatically, what we really need is a 55-gallon drum to hold all those toxicities, not a 5-gallon rain bucket. So we haven't caught up yet evolutionary-wise So it is critically important that we're assisting our bodies in detoxification, that we don't just rely on the built-in mechanism. It's just not nearly enough.
Right. And again, not just January 1st, right? Not just, oh, it's a new year, I'm going to do a 10-day detox or a week-long cleanse. I mean, yeah, that can help jumpstart your body, and it can be motivating, especially if you have other people that you're doing it with. But you simply have to figure out something that fits into your life to do on a daily basis forever, not just,
Right.
January 1st.
Absolutely.
For sure. So do you want to give us some examples?
Where we get our toxins?
Let's
right.
talk about
So,
that
of course,
first.
yeah,
So
my
different
favorite
ways, because I feel like you should avoid anything you can avoid, because it's really hard to avoid a lot of other things. So let's talk about the most avoidable ones.
Right. So I think, I just sort of categorize these into food, air, water, and then plastics, personal care products. So when we're talking about food, it's certainly a lot of the additives, the food dyes, the preservatives to keep shelf life. One recommendation would be, if you're buying anything with a label on it and you're going to consume it, it should have no more than 5 ingredients. Once you start getting beyond 5 ingredients, more than likely is when you start to see the food dyes, the chemicals, things like that. So herbicides and pesticides, you mentioned why it's critically important that we're eating organic, non-GMO.
It is worth the money.
Absolutely. Well, pay now or pay later. It's either going to be paying for trying to get back your health, or paying up on the upfront side, putting healthier foods into your bodies. As far as water is concerned, there's certainly metals. We know that in Cuyahoga County, there's a worse lead problem in the water supply than in Flint, Michigan. So Flint, Michigan was highlighted several years ago, but the problem is even more concerning in Cuyahoga County. So for those of you living in and around this area, you may be dealing with lead exposure.
And don't forget to filter your cooking water too, because we all think sometimes it's only drinking water, but if you cook, rice or vegetables or anything else, it's going to suck up all of the toxins if you don't filter that water too.
Right. So an arsenic is in groundwater. So again, looking at food, air, and water, air, certainly in industrial areas, pollution. If you live near a freeway, you're inhaling these toxicants that can be just so problematic to normal body chemistry. And then as we transition to other exposures, personal care products. So some of the things that we talk about with patients, and we have a really good handout on toxicities, are the parabens and phthalates in personal care products. Those are tricky words, but they are disruptors to normal body chemistry. So personal care products, your soaps, your shampoos, your lotions, detergents, you really want phthalate and paraben free.
And fragrance free as well.
Fragrance free, unless it's from an essential oil, right? And then EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies. This is a big topic now. We are bombarded between our homes and Wi-Fi and cell phone use and our personal computers. These are giving off tremendous amounts of electromagnetic frequencies. And honestly, I don't think we really know the impact, the full impact that these exposures can have on the human body. And so we're relying on industry to do the testing for us. And I'm not so sure that they are coming up with the answers that we need. And so it's just important on the front end that all of us try to be as proactive at reducing our EMF exposures to the best that we possibly can.
And honestly, the more we look into this topic, as scary as it is, the more we're really finding real data and real life examples on how it really does disrupt body chemistry. And it's one thing that's put into the bucket. So if your bucket's overflowing already, exposure to EMFs can definitely make things worse, like headaches, for example, fatigue for sure, but headaches are a big one.
Absolutely. And one thing that I do want to mention is people ask us all the time about 7-day detox plans, 10-day detox plans. They can be a good jumpstart, but that shouldn't be what your plan is for the year. So you're going to expose, and then, over a 7 or 10-day period of time, you're going to invest a whole lot of money in doing a plan to try to remove things out of the body. The idea is you can use that to jumpstart, but this should be top of mind on a daily basis, figuring out some way that you can assist your body to detox. So again, I just wanted to remind people
And
that
most
it's
of
not
those,
a
like,
simple cure.
7 to 10 day detoxes, some of them now more these days, but they're not really taking into consideration Wi-Fi and EMFs and stress and toxic people. So make that, in the back of your mind or front of your mind a part of your detox as well.
So by the way, I talked about the EMFs. There's actually starting today a 1-week summit, and it's free for people to sign up for. EMFhealthsummit.com. EMFhealthsummit.com. And you can see some of these amazing speakers from around the world who have gathered together to try and highlight some of the concerns that may be contributing to chronic disease and beyond. So that's free. And for those of you who are interested, go ahead and sign up at that website. So let's talk over the next 4 to 5 minutes on how we can help the body detoxify. Do you want to tackle some of these?
Yeah, sure. I can talk about different supplements, and then we can talk about things separate from supplements. So we talk about this almost every week, but infrared sauna and sweating is an amazing way to detoxify. There's research study after research study showing all the toxins that are excreted, including heavy metals, which are a big problem for a lot of us. So infrared sauna for sure. Any way you can sweat is better than not sweating. Exercise in general, even without the sweating, exercise will move your lymph fluid around, and that'll help detoxify. I was going to talk about supplements.
Yeah, okay.
So besides that, so supplements, glutathione is the master detoxifier for sure. So glutathione, unless, there's some people who might not tolerate it that well, but overall it's a very tolerated supplement. It is hard to absorb, so you need to be careful of the kind you get. IV or intramuscular glutathione works, I think, a lot better than oral, but that's not practical all the time. NAC or N-acetylcysteine is the precursor to glutathione, so sometimes that's a little bit better absorbed, so you can take that on a daily basis orally.
So that's something that I personally take, NAC, 600 milligrams twice a day, the precursor to glutathione, which again can help promote detoxification. So for people who are wondering what kind of dose to take, what else you got?
And magnesium is also really important with detoxification. Methylation cofactors, which if you watched our methylation video, you know what I'm talking about. So methylation is one of the chemical reactions that happens in our body to detoxify things.
So let's actually, I'm going to interrupt. Let's connect the dots for a second. So when we did that talk on methylation, we talked about if you have a genetic issue as it relates to MTHFR, and again, we have a whole video on that. What that tells us is that the individual who has any genetic mutation related to that gene has trouble detoxifying. It is related, so the word methylation is related to that MTHFR, and so we may be challenged at being able to methylate. So the idea is to reduce your exposure so that you don't have to rely so heavily on methylation. So I just wanted to connect those dots.
And so B vitamins are really important with methylation. Activated B vitamins like methylfolate, folinic acid. You want to avoid folic acid. And then B12, something like methyl B12 or hydroxy B12. You want to avoid cyanocobalamin. But with folate and B12, anywhere between a couple hundred micrograms and a gram or two is probably a good daily dose of that. And that's in a lot of multivitamins as well. You can get, what else is helpful for detoxification? The glutathione, the NAC, the magnesium, the B vitamins. Those are the...
From a supplement standpoint?
Oh, sulfate, sulfur too. So the Epsom salt is a great way, especially for kids, but for anybody really. You don't have to swallow a pill. You just sit in a relaxing bath for 20 minutes. So 2 big cups of Epsom salt in really warm water. And the sulfate part of the magnesium sulfate in that Epsom salt really helps with detoxification. Also MSM, there are people out there taking MSM because it really does help detoxify the cell because of the sulfur that's in it. So if you can tolerate sulfur, that's a great way. And sulforaphanes in cruciferous vegetables as well. So broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, arugula, Brussels sprouts, I think that's all of them.
And actually what I think is interesting about the sulfur is that if you take it with a lot, good amount of water, it will deliver oxygen from the water to the cell. It'll allow the oxygen to go in, and then the cell can spit out the stuff that it doesn't want to hold on to. It binds to that, and then you pee and poop it out, which is a transition, because I know we're getting up against quarter of the hour, but peeing and pooping are also really important ways to detoxify. So you should be having a minimum of 1 to 2 good bowel movements a day to get rid of those toxins that you don't need to hold on to. You talked about cruciferous vegetables, really important. What else? You talked about Epsom salt baths. I did a video in I believe, January on the lymph squeeze technique, where you're basically, your lymphatics are throughout your body, your lymph nodes. And so you're basically here from the tip of your finger all the way toward your heart. And just watch that video if you want to see the technique. But your lymph system does not have a pump. And so we have to help move that lymph fluid through, and then it'll eventually move those toxins again to kidneys, to bowel for elimination. So if you want a quick way to help your body detoxify, I tell my patients all the time, I do that lymph squeeze technique every day in the shower. It takes about 2 minutes while I'm letting the conditioner work its magic. I do the lymph technique, squeeze technique, and then I rinse. So it's so easy to do, and it doesn't take up any extra time. Again, assists the body. So.
Oh, and you know, something else that I was just talking about with my last patient is chlorophyll. So chlorophyll is a really good cleanser of all the cells as well, and you can buy concentrated chlorophyll and just put a few drops of water to make it green, and just drink it throughout the day. That's helpful too. Also, activated charcoal, it'll help bind things up in your gut so they don't get reabsorbed. Like if you know you eat a really toxic meal, or you're exposed to a lot of glyphosate, or you're doing some kind of heavy metal treatments, the activated charcoal is helpful, but it can lead to constipation if you don't drink enough water. So you got to be careful of that for sure.
Excellent. So I think we're up against it time-wise. Want to thank you again for participating. I think I had an idea while we were talking that as we stay on this month of detoxification, really trying to help people focus on it, next week we should do heavy metals. We should talk about where we're getting exposed to heavy metals and why it is so critically important to get them out of our body. So next week, which would be the 25th of September at 12:30 Eastern time, we'll talk about heavy metals and how to detoxify those out. So. And
please send us your requests about topics too, because you know we can only think of so many things. So whatever you guys want to hear, we're willing to talk about. And if we don't know a lot about it, we'll find out a lot about it and report back to you.
So thank you so much for participating. We recognize that it is your opportunity to thrive. So let us inspire you. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the week.